These guys have been climbing up Dynasty rankings fast, and so Nathan and I are going to give you the full scoop on what we think of their value, if they should be climbing, and what you should do with them at the current moment. Let's start with the obvious one, Bill Krosky Merritt. Well, I've said that name a lot now, and it never really does get old because the name Bill Krosky is one of the names of all names, in my opinion. And so, look, a lot of people are asking me, hey, should I trade him away for a second or 2 seconds or a first? I'm going to give you a price update in this video because right now when you're looking at where he's actually going in Dynasty markets, and again, this has been maybe the biggest riser because they did get rid of Brian Robinson. I think this is large in part because Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, what are you laughing at?
Have you seen his keep trade cut?
No, I'm looking at it now.
Funny.
He's the running back 25, overall positional ranking 116th, so that puts him in what, the 9th round, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so, look, I mean, a lot of people asking, should I trade Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt away for a second? And my opinion on that one is no, I don't think you should. Because I think anybody you draft in the second next year, if any of them have as good a chance as Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt to be the starting running back on their team, I will be surprised. Because Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt right now does have the best, has in my opinion, the best odds of any running back in Washington as a rookie who really flew under our radar and flew under everybody's radar, because when you're looking at his bakery scores when we were talking about him last year, he was definitely somebody we had on our radar, but not really because he didn't even play his last year. And so his metrics were pretty much in the toilet. Now, he was in the same tier of guys like Woody Marks, who we were talking about a lot, Ollie Gordon, Raheem Sanders, and we have talked about Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt on the channel, but he got 7th round draft capital, and again, was a redshirt senior, didn't play at Arizona because of some stupid eligibility thing, didn't have a very high receiving dominator rating, so we were like, yeah, we're pretty much just going to write him off. But there were some things in the bakery that were very good. He had a 10 in missed tackles forced per attempt. He had a 9 in yards per carry. He had a 9 in elusivity. Again, really what was bringing it down is his breakout was super low. His receiving dominator rating was super low. And outside of that, he had a very good profile. And his draft capital obviously didn't do much for his profile either. But now Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, again, he is potentially going to be the starting running back. And so would I trade him away for 2 seconds? Maybe. If they're both late seconds, probably not. Again, I would rather just hold. Because if he does, the second that he gets more snaps than Austin Eckler in week 1, his price is going to go up 2 full rounds in Dynasty.
If Tyron Tracy can do it, so can he. That's all I'm saying.
And the fact of the matter is,
you can probably sell him mid-season for more than you are even selling him off.
That's exactly right. I don't think you're selling, we did this with Dameon Pierce a couple years ago.
Yep. And
Dameon Pierce was a guy that we remember, if you were on this channel at that point, we were talking about Dameon Pierce, and we're like, hey, maybe you should sell Dameon Pierce, but you probably are going to be able to get even more for him in the season. And what happened? Let's even just pull this up as an example. You were selling Dameon Pierce. I sold Dameon Pierce for a first in one of my leagues. I specifically remember it.
And the same thing happened with Tracy last year in the middle of the season as well.
So when you going into that year with him, you saw his value was rising. He was at running back 20, Dameon Pierce, in August. And we got to September, and it settled at running back 19. And then in the middle of the year, he was the running back 10 by October, running back 9 by October.
Yeah.
So even if Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is somebody that you do eventually want to sell, you should hold him for now because, again, if you are wanting to sell him, I think his value is not at his peak yet. He's just on the way up. Right now, he's a hold for us. I'm not going out of my... I don't know. If you think he's going to be a starter, if you are very convicted that he's going to be the starter there, I guess I don't have a problem with going and buying him. If you can buy him for a second, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If you can buy him for 2 late seconds, I'm doing it. I won't send a first for him. I would take a first for him, but at that point, again, he's kind of a hold for us. It kind of falls in between. It's all situational. I think his value is going to go up.
Yeah, so. Krosky Merritt honestly is still, in our opinion, even though his market price has risen so much, is still kind of a market play if you get in on him now. Hope you can sell him at a premium in the middle of the year. And in terms of 3-year outlooks for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, do I think he's the long-term answer and what they've been looking for at the running back position in terms of versatility and dominance and can be a bell cow long-term? As a 24-year-old rookie, I'm probably not betting on that, that he would have to defy a lot of odds there. But again, this is a market play, and this is why we love Dynasty, and this is why we do it.
If you bought Kyren Williams during his first breakout season in the NFL during September, October, you got him before his value eventually spiked at the end of December, and he's stayed there ever since. And so this could still be a buy low, depending on how you view Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt.
The difference is Kyren was 21. So
okay. And I'm not going to be an ageist here, Nathan. You can be ageist. I personally play Dynasty in 3-year outlooks. I think he's got a good 3-year outlook.
So. CMC is going to be our next guy here. This is clockwork with CMC every single year. People get cute with your contending upside assets in the off season, and they plummet their value as rookie draft capital increases significantly in terms of its market value, and your young guys who maybe had 700 yards last season as a wide receiver or a running back or a tight end or something like that, end up shooting up boards as well. The market loves to do crazy stuff at the end of the season when we're no longer seeing players score points. And we have a very, very short memory. We like to forget what happens. See A.J. Brown. If you remember, one of the biggest takes that we had in the early offseason last year in like December, we said sell A.J. Brown now so that you can buy him for cheaper later. If you remember, A.J. Brown was being valued as a late second round pick, as he should have been, with the 16 points per game that he was offering you in a down year. And then when people looked harder at his efficiency and how it went down over time and all that stuff in the early offseason later in like February, he ended up losing a half round to a full round of value, if not even more. And now he's gone back up in price again because we're heading into the season. Same thing happening with CMC here. This happens with him every single year. I'm pretty sure at some point in the early offseason this year, we had him as a buy. I'm sure it happened because again,
we were giving him as a buy on a ton of teams. He was on the worst team in Dynasty on a lot of leagues, and so in Blueprints we're giving him as a buy. But again, he was going in this late 6th round.
Right.
So at that point, he was a buy.
And now CMC's price tag is a 4th round price tag.
But you got a value in. So you not only get the production, you got a value in on CMC.
One of the easiest things to do is invest in productive assets before they gain value heading into the start of the season. This is one of the, I think, common misconceptions is once you get to the offseason, you have to only invest in young guys. Why not the guys that are going to be projected to score a lot of points this season? And get them at a discount before we are worrying about scoring points, right? This is one of the best reload or rebuild moves to make. CMC's price right now, you can't buy him. You can't invest in him. And if you're a reload and you did hold on to CMC to wait to move off of him for a premium, you can move him now. I don't think you have to move him now. I think you can wait until the middle of the season because if you look at that situation in San Fran, it's really ugly. Ayuk is not starting the season healthy. Juwan Jennings is not starting the season healthy. George Kittle will be the top receiving option there. Ricky Pearsall, who knows what he's going to do. CMC has a good chance of getting a ridiculous amount of volume there and being the CMC of old. That's very, very possible. Maybe he's not efficient as he has been in years past, but I still think he's going to have a solid year. So, look, guys, with CMC, I'm not gonna scold you guys and say, oh, you're wrong for if you're in a startup draft in August selecting CMC in the 4th round. If you're going for the championship this year, CMC is a guy that you want on your team for sure, absolutely. But I will say, if you're even thinking about reloading, you probably want to move him for a premium because he will no longer be valued as highly as he is right now as he approaches 30 years old next offseason. You've seen how that's capped even a guy like Derrick Henry and his value after a 19 point per game season. He goes in the 5th or 6th round. So that's something you're going to want to track with CMC. And I would just say, like, even if you do want to go for it this season and win, if you're doing a startup draft right now before the start of the year, I don't think I would pay a 4th round price tag for CMC.
Right now is one of the best times of year to come and join the Domain community because right now you obviously get a team review from Nathan and I where we basically ourselves break down your Dynasty team and tell you which moves you need to make for this season. But you're also going to get Infinite Blueprint, which is going to be a new blueprint for your team every single week during the season with all your start sit recommendations, some trade targets, maybe guys you should be trading away with your current status of your contending or rebuilding roster. And so you should check it out and you should get in before the season to get that Infinite Blueprint. You can do it at flockfantasy.com/domain. You have to use code domain to unlock the Infinite Blueprint. So you use code domain when you sign up and then go annual Mother Flocker tier and you're going to unlock all of this. Plus you're going to unlock our Discord, all the sites, tools and things like that. Our draft guides you'll have it for the whole year. So you're going to have it during Dynasty season, which is January through May, which is the fun part. And so again, go check it out before the season starts so you can get the weekly Infinite Blueprint at flockfantasy.com/domain. Jameson Williams has been rising in value. You look at where JMO was, for most of the offseason, was hovering around the wide receiver 28, 29, 30, 31. And really since May, he's kind of gone back up to the wide receiver 22 in Dynasty. So he's been somebody that's been slowly rising in preseason. And I think the main reason you've seen JMO kind of fall down here, I think you saw him fall down a little bit when Ben Johnson took the Chicago job. And then for some reason, you saw Jameson Williams fall a little bit right after the draft.
Tesla.
I don't think I legitimately don't think that's it because I don't think anybody was thinking Tesla
that was why.
People really thought that Tesla I thought the Tesla thing was recent.
No, the Tesla hype has been recent, but the concern was, maybe they just drafted a 3rd round wide receiver that they're very excited about because they're not planning on re-signing Jameson Williams long term.
I was never worried about that personally, but Anyways, you've seen his value drop, and then slowly it's just kind of crept back up to where it was last season. Wide receiver 22, which ironically enough is in PPR leagues where he finished last year. Now, the thing with Jameson Williams is I think he's a hold. I'm not really like looking to sell high on Jameson Williams because, look, if I'm selling Jameson Williams at wide receiver 14, 13 prices, yeah, I will sell high on Jameson Williams because at that point I think you're talking about his ceiling, especially as a wide receiver 2 in an offense. But wide receiver 22 is pretty achievable and one of the best offenses in the NFL. On a year-to-year basis, I think he could be anywhere from the wide receiver 18 to 24. And so you're rostering him not only for that, wide receiver 2 upside, but also the upside of any given week. The dude could have 30 points in your flex spots in Dynasty. And so obviously, the reason I say he's probably a hold is you probably got Jameson Williams either A, last year when he was cheaper, or B, during the offseason this year when he was cheaper. And in my opinion, how much of a value win are you getting if you sell him? Really, the only time you're getting a big value win is if you bought Jameson Williams in, let's say, for example, last year in July, last year, in 2024 in January, February, anytime in the offseason last year before his value spiked way up during the season, then went back down, and then has slowly crept back up to where it was during last season. Look, if you bought during the super low period and you really don't believe in JMO, then sure, you can take a pretty big value in here. But most of you guys, what my guess is if you've acquired Jameson Williams, you've acquired him at a point pretty close to where his value is now. And so you're not really going to get a huge value in by selling him. And so at that point, I don't think you sell him. I think you just hold him and see what he does from a production upside standpoint. And I do understand on our Dynasty channel, on this channel, we have been very skeptical this season of what Jameson Williams can do. And I think a little bit of that has been offset by two things. Number one, I talked about this on the DFF channel. The fact that people are saying the Lions are going to throw the ball downfield more, which would be a positive for Jameson Williams. Mm-hmm. But also, Jameson Williams has gotten a ton. The beat writers in Detroit have been raving about JMO. He's been the top hype getter in the Detroit Lions training camp room. And I understand that doesn't always translate, but it's a good offense with plenty of weapons. And the fact that he's standing out at all is, in my opinion, a good sign. And so I think you just hold him right now. I don't think you're getting a huge value in by selling him. And I think that his rise, whether it's warranted or not, we're probably not going to know till in season, but if they do throw the ball downfield more, it could end up being a warranted rise.
Starting quarterbacks that show any semblance of decent production are kind of tough to come by. And Jackson Dart is someone who I do think has significant value upside, and that's already been demonstrated before the season has even started. If you look at what his value has been doing over the course of training camp and the preseason, it's been slowly moving up as well because of what he was able to showcase in some of those games. And again, they're practice games. We want to take out all of that stuff with a grain of salt. But if this is any indication of what's going to happen when Jackson Dart is actually announced to be the starter in New York, you can take a shot on Dart right now for a pretty decent price if you're a rebuild and you can't afford to insulate your QB room. Here's what happens. When you're a hard rebuild, that means you're value depleted. That means you don't have a ton of value pretty much across the board. What does that generally mean? It means you also don't have a ton of value insulation. What does that also imply? Means that quarterback in a superflex format and wide receiver are your areas that you're not comfortable at really at all. So if you don't have a ton of value at quarterback as a rebuild, which is very common, that means you probably don't have the value across the board to invest in a guy that's super insulated like a Brock Purdy or like a Baker Mayfield or like a Jared Goff. Maybe you can't get one of those guys. So why not go ahead and take the shot on Jackson Dart? Seriously, if you look at how his value has climbed just in the preseason, I bet you $1 million with his first round draft capital and with Brian Daboll being labeled as the quarterback whisperer, kind of resurrecting Daniel Jones' career for a little stretch there and doing what he did with Josh Allen over in Buffalo. You're going to see a guy with the passing pedigree of Jackson Dart probably shoot up a couple of rounds before he really even does that much. Last year should have been an indication as well with Michael Penix. If you remember Michael Penix in Atlanta, he did not have a ton of value before the Kirk Cousins stuff. As Kirk Cousins began to play very poorly, he kind of got into the value range of where Dart's currently being priced. And then he just exploded when he was announced a starter before he even played. Then he played 3 games, one of which was actually the first 2 were pretty rough. And then he had a really nice final game in Atlanta. And outside of that, we don't really know much from Michael Penix. We like Michael Penix's price right now going in the 6th, 7th round sometimes. And Jackson Dart, again, going at a much, much, much cheaper and more affordable price for you reloads and rebuilds if you want to play kind of the value upside game with him at the quarterback position. Another very interesting thing to note here, we have not released this to the public yet, but, we don't. Ryan Brett has not released this to the public yet. But
we told him in the video we released today. So.
Right. Jackson Dart is in the QB Bakery version, which he has been working on developing, is actually in that blue tier. You've got like the purple tier, which is top notch, all hits there. Not very many guys in that tier. And then the blue tier is a lot more extensive, and it's about like a 70 to 80% hit rate. Jackson Dart is actually, he has a better Bakery grade than Cam Ward does, and it's because of his passing pedigree and his passing profile. This is a situation where with Malik Neighbors as your wide receiver 1 in that offense, the moment he's announced as a starter, boom, value win. And then we can deal with his price later, but not a bad investment right now.
Okay. So I'll just preface by saying this. We were wrong about the fact that we didn't think James Cook would get this contract.
Yeah.
Straight up, Nathan and I both didn't think that he would, and he did, and so we were incorrect about that. And so, it sucks. However, the one thing that actually did end up working out okay, because Nathan and I we're both selling James Cook on our Dynasty teams, is that when we told you to sell him, which was, at the end of the season, since January until just recently, he actually lost quite a bit of value. So we did sell him before he lost that value. Running back 9, and then went all the way down to running back 18 before he's gone up to back to running back 14. He's still cheaper now than when we sold him off of our Dynasty teams.
Which is crazy.
Which is actually crazy because he got a huge contract on one of the best offenses in the NFL. Again, we didn't see it coming and we were wrong about that. I apologize. We're not always perfect with our predictions, but again, it's not too late. If you did sell James Cook and you wanted to get him back, you can get him back cheaper than what you sold him for. Mm-hmm. We sold him at running back 8 prices, running back 7 prices. And right now he's only running back 14 in Dynasty.
Would you rather have Breece Hall or James Cook in Dynasty?
Oh gosh. Probably, my guess is that Breece Hall gets traded somewhere with decent and gets signed to a contract. So I think long-term Breece Hall is obviously a better option. But right now, in terms of security, I feel safer with James Cook.
So do I. I'd rather have James Cook.
So at the same time, part of the reason he's gone down in rank is because of obviously introducing the rookies. But even in January, February, we had rookies in these rankings, and still he's lower than he was. And so my point of this all is this. Yes, we did miss on the James Cook take in terms of him, not getting paid. But he still was a sell because his value did decrease. And if you did want to buy him back right now, his price isn't very high. It really isn't any higher than what you sold it at, and you can get him back. I think James Cook right now, look, if you're trying to, we're looking at what James Cook did last year from a production standpoint. He was obviously very good. And here's the other thing. We've been predicting regression for James Cook. Still going to regress. None of that changes. Still going to regress. But 16.7 fantasy points per game last year. We look at, Nathan just talked about Breece Hall. You look at Breece Hall last year, 15.1 points per game. Even if James Cook regresses, I think he's going to be 14 points per game or more. So you can pivot off of Breece Hall to the security of James Cook and also have the same production. And that's kind of my point with James Cook. I'm going to label James Cook, while he was a market sell for us at the beginning of the offseason. And then, actually, we didn't really recommend selling him when his value bottomed out that much. We kind of stopped saying, hey, sell James Cook, sell James Cook. We still didn't think he was going to get paid. I would say James Cook is a soft buy right now. I think he's a pivot option, soft buy. Just because
I'm glad you think the same thing because I've been putting him on blueprints.
Yeah, because
as a target.
And I've been recommending people buy him as well because, again, his value should have gone right back up to where it was at the end of last year, and it just hasn't. It hasn't at all. He's still very cheap, and so look, we'll take the L on the James Cook contract. Definitely our fault on that one, but the good news is it hasn't killed us yet. We're going to pivot and adjust, and I think it's going to end up just fine with James Cook. So honestly, he deserves to be rising even more than he probably is now with the they paid him good money. My goodness, they paid him good money.
Last week, we dropped a video titled The Easiest Buys in Dynasty Right Now, Act Fast. And when we said act fast, we meant act fast because 2 of those buys have already been crossed off. The buy window has closed, folks. We can check those. Again, we're wrong about stuff. We're right about some stuff, too. Xavier Worthy, cha-ching. Rashee Rice just suspended for the first 6 games of the season. He's going to be more expensive now. Worthy will be. And then Terry McLaurin was the big one. Terry McLaurin being the biggest riser that I think we're going to talk about here. Getting the extension that we honestly suspected was going to happen. And that was why we had him in last week's buys video. Realistically, guys, looking back again, hindsight is 20/20. But what did we really think the Commanders were going to do? And what did we think that Terry McLaurin was going to do? Terry McLaurin and his agent were going to be realistic with what he was actually owed as a talented wide receiver in the NFL, but not a top dollar wide receiver in the NFL. And we knew that Washington was going to work it out because Terry McLaurin is the wide receiver 1 for Jaden Daniels going into his second year, and they would have been in shambles if they let him go. Deebo Samuel would have been their wide receiver 1. what did we think that Washington was going to do? So Terry McLaurin, with that significant but short value dip that he saw with the training camp holdout, he's now right back up to where he was. Right back up to where he was.
Literally went straight up.
And that is exactly where he should be priced.
In fact, this is tied for the highest his value has gone since, last year he got there, but he's like right back up to where he was in October of last year in terms of being like the wide receiver 25 in Dynasty. So that's an easy value win right there. Easy short-term market play value, and that's how it's free.
It's right where Terry should be priced. I will say the other guy that I just mentioned, he is value equivalent now to Xavier Worthy in Dynasty. I think I might want to take the shot on Xavier Worthy there, depending on what build you have. If you are kind of a lower-end, well-rounded team that maybe doesn't have a ton of future draft capital and really need to go for it this year, but you need some extra value to work with to build up other positions, you can now down tier from Terry McLaurin and Cortland Sutton. Before the holdout, remember what was the thing that we were saying? Why is the value gap so significant between Terry McLaurin and Cortland Sutton? It literally ended up getting to a point where they were back-to-back in rankings with the holdout, and now it's multiple rounds apart again. So this is something where you might want to play the market there a little bit. I'm not saying that Terry McLaurin is exclusively a sell for every single situation and every single scenario. I think he's going to be productive this year like he was last season. I think he's going to be fine. You're probably going to see some touchdown regression, but hopefully see some target progression as well. Maybe he'll get a little more consistent with his weekly opportunity in his volume will go up a little bit. We'll see. So the reason I have rebuilds and reloads going ahead and basically recommending like, hey, you can cash out on Terry now if you want to, is the actual details, the real contract terms and negotiations for Terry McLaurin's deal over the next couple of years is now officially out. And everybody looks at the 3 years, $97 million. They look at the big $97 million number. Look at the guarantees. Look at what is actually locked in. What are the dead caps if he were to ever be cut over the next X amount of years? This season, including this year in 2025, he is locked in. 2026, he is locked in. They save half the amount of cap space that they would lose if they were to keep him on the team in 2027, which essentially means this is not a 3-year extension for Terry McLaurin. This is a 1-year extension. He is under contract. They literally just reworked the deal. They pushed the money back all the way down to his 32 and 33-year-old seasons in 27 and 2028. It is fair game for Terry McLaurin in the NFL after the 2026 season. So again, in terms of like a 3-year outlook, you've got 2 of those years pretty much locked in for Terry. So as a contender, if you want to take that shot at price right now, I'm totally okay with it. But as a reload, you're not even going to be looking at contending until at least next season in 2026. People are going to be looking ahead to 2026 saying, after this year, there's really no guarantees after that point. And they're correct. So they would save, I think, $18 million. They would save $16 million if they let Terry McLaurin go after 2026. So just keep that in mind. Don't look at the 3 years, $97 million. Actually read between the lines. Look at what they're doing with this money, what they're pushing out. That's very, very important when we're looking at 3-year outlooks.
And finally, another veteran wide receiver here, Calvin Ridley. And actually, his keep trade cut graph is very interesting. He's been on a positive incline really since March. He's gone up and up and up and up. And he went from being like the wide receiver 65 in Dynasty to already to the wide receiver 43 in Dynasty. So he's really gained quite a bit of value here. Obviously, you had the spike in 2021 when he was very good. You had the spike when he was traded to Jacksonville and started playing those couple of first weeks of the year. And then people were like, wait a second. And then now, his value's kind of, been a little bit more mellow for the past couple of years. Now, the thing with Calvin Ridley actually, from a route running perspective, when you're looking at his reception data, was actually pretty good last year in a very bad situation. And so what this tells us is that if the situation at all gets better, which we do project it to get better because we do think Cam Ward is going to be solid for the Tennessee Titans this year, Calvin Ridley's wide receiver 1 in that offense with pretty much no competition. They did cut Xavier Shepard last week, by the way. That was a little bit of a deep long-term win for us. Mm-hmm. That was a long-term take for us. But look, they have Alec Eiermanner there. Okay, they have Tyler Lockett there, bald and old. And so, with that, I think Calvin Ridley is going to probably do very well in this offense. And I think people are realizing that in terms of, we've been giving Calvin Ridley as a buy on Blueprint since June. And part of that is because he's dirt cheap and he has wide receiver 2 upside this year.
This is a classic productive veteran value spike heading into the season.
This is a classic. You keep your value on your team in your top-end wide receivers, top-end quarterbacks, top-end running backs, and you fill out the rest of your flex spots with dirt cheap guys that produce at a very high level, and Calvin Ridley is going to be one of those guys. I bet Calvin Ridley's a 14 points per game guy this year, which is going to be very impressive for him. I mean, even last year, again, in a terrible offense last year, he was at 11.7 points per game. In Jacksonville, he was at 13.5 points per game. And so, look, I think he's probably going to be at 14, 15 points per game this year. And I think people are going to look at that and be like, yeah, I've got 14, 15 points per game in PPR leagues and my dynasty flex spots. I'm feeling pretty good about that. This was Cortland Sutton last year, being that guy that you bought him. If you bought him going into last season, the situation got so much better that he ended up performing at a level that we hadn't really seen before. And then I ended up starting Cortland Sutton on 2 of my championship dynasty teams last year. And Cortland Sutton going into last year had averaged 10 and 11 points per game, went up to 14.1 points per game. I bet Calvin Ridley gets 14.5. I bet he has a better year than Sutton did last year. Because Sutton for literally half of the year last year wasn't that good, and then really turned on at the end. So if Calvin really puts together a complete season, he could be a guy that wins you leagues in your flex spot for your dynasty team. So there you go. Again, these are guys that have been flying up, rankings flying up, their market value has been going up a lot. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of clarity on some of these guys. Do us a huge favor. If you play Dynasty, make sure you drop a like and make sure you're subscribed to play Dynasty. Nathan and I are the biggest Dynasty diehards you will literally ever meet. And so we'd love for you to come along the ride with us and continue to play Dynasty as well. It's really redraft season, but we're always going to be on Dynasty. By the way, this was technically the last video. This will have been the last video, or yeah. No,
the last off-season video.
And in September, we typically... what we do every year, we've done this every year, was we just, take a month from Dynasty. We pretty much just only do redraft content. We do maybe 1 or 2 videos during September. And so this year, we're going to do the same thing. It's like, we're not doing that. This year, we ain't done yet. We are not stopping Dynasty content. In fact, you guys are more important than our redraft channel, to be honest with you. Don't tell them we said that, but we're Dynasty bros forever. So we are going to continue to post content throughout the season. Let us know in the comments if you made it this far. If you did, you're a sicko. Let us know what type of content you'd like to see in season. I have some ideas. We obviously have some ideas ourselves, but I'm curious what you guys think would be most helpful during the season in terms of Dynasty content. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching, and thank you guys for being the best audience in Dynasty Fantasy Football. We'll see you later.